What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Tonight, we are talking the Secret Invasion season finale, episode 6, Home. We have a lot to talk about. I think we all start with, this is the season finale. Dave, Tuesday night before the show dropped, he was talking about feeling that it's going to be rushed. I turned on the episode. It's only 34 minutes, and I didn't even have to hear the first word to know that he was right.
Yeah, it's sad. They had that poignant moment at the end. I don't know if it's poignant's the right word, but where he and Vara were talking. I know we skipped to the end again, right, Keith? Do that again.
We always do. Why not? Yeah, why not? Yeah.
So they're getting on the ship to go back up to Saber. And, and he acknowledges that he loved her either way, whether she was a Skrull or a person. That was a good moment. Everything up to that, what? It just sped right through it.
Well, here's the formula for Disney Plus shows. Episodes 1 and 2, you're like, hey, that could be fun. That's pretty good. Episode 3 and 4, okay, but where is this all going? What are they doing? Episode 5, how are they going to wrap all this up in one episode? In episode 6? So
Here
that's how they did it.
Yeah.
And this was so disappointing watching this because there were some cool moments. They weren't executed very well, but there was some good stuff in here that if they would have done right, extended the show out to 8, 10, 12 episodes, they'd had more time to develop things and it wouldn't have felt rushed. They maybe could have had some more twists and turns because this show was unfortunately as predictable as any Disney Plus show. Might be the most predictable, to be honest. When you were watching this, Dave, and Nick Fury was in the, had New Skrullios, did you know it was not Nick Fury? Because I knew it wasn't.
Yeah.
There was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, it was quite an act. There was no way. They already said that humans cannot live with the radiation where they were at. And like him just stumbling every few feet, he would not go in there and do that. And when they said Fury is in the hospital, he's on his way to you. Of course that's what he's doing. Of course he's on the way to the hospital. He's already at the hospital. Yep. My question here, I had a question. Why did they remove the president from his room rather than get all the guards around that room? Or even in the room?
Because then Nick Fury couldn't have came out and talked to him and had, Rhodey on the side.
Doesn't seem logical.
Well, they wouldn't have had a president in a regular hospital anyway. He would have been moved as soon as he could. He would have been in a special high security room. There's, once again, so many things that they wrote and just didn't really think it through that kind of took away any credibility the show had. And I mean, the big thing too for this episode is the harvest. We saw Gravik and Gaia, whatever the heck her name is. They all of a sudden had every power of almost every Avenger, everyone in the Black Order, every Guardian of the Galaxy.
Thanos.
But it makes no sense because, multiple heroes have the same power. If you're as strong as the Hulk, why do you need Drax's power too? It just things didn't add up.
They just wanted to put those names on the screen and show you that they were part of the MCU, And, of course, they have the big battle. I can't remember if I already talked about this. Stop me if I did. But, like, when he turned on the machine to create the Super Skrull out of the harvest for himself, and Fury was in the machine, right? And when the machine stopped, wouldn't he know this is not Fury? Because he's not dead.
He definitely should have. And while we're talking about Gravik, Doug was mentioning last week how, he just escalated to this evildom really out of nowhere, and it happens a lot with these Disney Plus shows. They start out, they're maybe bad, but then they become this high level, super villain evil by the end. And
Mhm.
hearing him explain, like if he would explained it better, I think I would have bought it a little more. But him saying, "You made me kill somebody that had a family, Nick. Now I'm gonna kill every human on this planet." It's like, wait, you're sad? You killed a human because he had a family, but now you're wiping everybody out? That just leap of logic just is not something someone would have. I mean, I could see him maybe wanting to kill Nick Fury, maybe wanting to take out Shield, maybe do something like that. But kill every human? No one would go jump to that level based on what he was saying.
He's an alien. Come on, he's crazy. He needs his what's that stuff that starts with the happy pills, Wellbutrin or whatever. He needs something to cheer him up, because it just made no sense. Yeah, Doug says it too. It made no sense. It made no sense that he went straight from one person questioning him to him slaughtering all the Skrulls around him. What? Come on.
And it made sense that they questioned him because he was starting to, do crazy things. I like that part of it where they're like, "Is this a good idea what you're doing?" Just starts murdering his own people. We
Yeah.
weren't given a home and you're questioning me? I'm going to kill you all.
Yeah,
If
that
they would
didn't
have
make
done,
sense to me.
yeah, if they would have done something where the Super Skrull formula caused him to start losing his mind a little bit, good. Work on
Yeah.
that. Have that why he's kind of going off the deep end and going after his own people and humans. But they never did it. They never made no
No.
mention of it. They just said, "Oh, it's a comic book show. People will love it if he just goes completely evil." No, we don't like that. We
No,
like our
we
villains to
needed
be sympathetic, pretty much.
and you need it to make sense. Not if we were living in a comic book world, what he's doing is makes sense, to him, because villains don't just become villains just to be villains. They do something to serve their own interest, at least their own interest, or they think that they're doing better for the world. Like he would be thinking, I'm doing better for my other Skrulls. So what does he do? He kills them all. No, that doesn't make any sense at all. He would not do that. And like
He
you said earlier, if they stretched this out to 12 episodes, they could have went so much deeper. I think they could have taken this like as a background story through the whole, next two phases behind the Kang story. They could have that would have been genius if they did that.
Yeah, if they would have, once again, this never should have been called Secret Invasion because the comic book had so much going on and so many things there, setting themselves up for disappointment, thinking we're going to get the hype levels up for this because we're calling it Secret Invasion. It was such a well received, series. And then everyone's just disappointed because they don't execute on it. If this would have been one guy, and they could still almost get away with it, Gravik was coming in. There's still a million Skrulls out there, and we don't know where most of them are. But instead of slowly having Skrulls infiltrate into the Earth and to the government and set all that up for like what you said, post Secret Wars, all of a sudden the Skrulls are like, "Hey, you beat Kang, but guess what? Earth is ours." That would have been fantastic. But instead, they rushed it in 6 episodes and took what could have been a phase level plot thread and did it in one Disney Plus show.
I mean, just imagine if they had dropped something, not even in every movie, but every other movie, or something in an after credit scene where something just happened, at the end of whatever movie you're watching, and then it picks up and there's a Skrull there. And then you go, oh, they're building this shit. And then they can still do the whole Kang dynasty, the whole Secret Wars. They could go through all that. You know what I mean? And they could still have this all being set up for, it's like a setup for the Phoenix Saga, which is, who knows if they'll ever do that right. But they could do it right now. But I'm sure nobody there took the time to say, we could slow play this for like 10 years and have an amazing movie.
They, like you said, they could have had this series just be Nick Fury dealing with Krees and maybe Skrulls, but not have it Secret Invasion. But maybe have during the series, you see Rhodey get replaced,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody knows. You see one of the young Avengers. You see like Miss Marvel, or you see Kate Bishop get replaced, and then they get these heroes that are replaced get pulled into Secret Wars and have to fight to stop Kang. And then when they come back, they're like, okay, we're ready.
Yep.
That would be fantastic. We should have had some idea who was a Skrull prior to whole Secret Invasion happening. And that's why they could have had this, Nick Fury, Agent of S.W.O.R.D., or something along the lines where they could have had it with the Kree peace talks and him still working on trying to getting a plan, have some animosity towards him because it's been so long, but it was just rushed right through.
And that's another thing you reminded me of at the end of the show. And they just kind of tossed it in like they're throwing a dime into a well as they're walking out of the mall. Oh yeah, the Kree have started peace talks. You just drop it in like it's nothing. Here you go. Here's something for you, kid.
And we got that little tidbit at the end. When Fury and Vara were heading back up to the Saber. We got the president giving his totally almost unhinged. Yes, thank you. Unhinged speech about we're declaring war on every alien, which Nick Fury, which we don't think is going to lead into much because Nick Fury was right. You sound like a one-term president. And if what we've heard about Captain America Brave New World is right, Harrison Ford's Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is going to be president. So they're not even going to, as far as we know, with anything that we know is coming out, they're not even going to do anything with that whole fiery speech at the end of the show. Yeah. And then the last little tidbit we got was, Sonya Falsworth and Gaia, to get kind of working together. And
I love how you go through every name.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna add a few. But we see their little speech, and I liked how that was handled too. She's like, "Hey, I know Nick Fury did you wrong. You use me, I'll use you. We'll be on the same footing. I'm coming at you with that." And I was thinking it would be so cool if we find out Sonya Falsworth was a Kree, because we know at the end of Far From Home, Talos was saying there's pockets of Kree on Earth right now, and almost we thought maybe the Secret Invasion could have been Kree instead of Skrull, so she could be a Kree, and maybe she's trying to get the harvest, the super soldier DNA from Gaia, Ghidra, and make some Kree super soldiers. But we know that's not going to happen. The writers didn't think that far ahead. They just think, oh, it'd be great if we had a super powerful Avengers, Guardians, the Black Order, and Thanos super soldier, and what we could do with that. But it's not going to go anywhere. I doubt it's going to go anywhere interesting, unfortunately.
I mean, she's the most powerful being in the universe now. She has all that DNA inside of her. So she can do whatever she wants. She doesn't have to be good. She doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter. Nobody can stop her. And unfortunately, the most powerful character they have in their entire universe was made on a show like this, and they won't even take it anywhere. That's disappointing.
Yeah, it'd be nice too if maybe she was using her to try to build up, the British super soldier, program. Maybe try to get Captain Britain out of the deal. Maybe Betsy Braddock. They won't. And it would even be nice, because she's too powerful. One of the things they did in the comics when Carol Danvers was just too powerful, she was, OP. They had Rogue kind of take half her powers away. Kind of humanized the character a little bit. She was no longer, completely unstoppable. And it helped the character. Where they would maybe need to do something with this character like that. And maybe it's the extremists or, the extremists and the harvest and all of this DNA is unstable. And she's not going to be able to keep all of her powers. And they have to find a way to stabilize her or stabilize the formula to make others. But they won't. She'll just have the
Richards
powers.
could figure that out. That could be a Fantastic Four problem. Hell, I could see an entire movie on that.
And they didn't even go, I thought for sure, and I said this on our, previous streams, that there's no way they're going to really have like a super Skrull in this. You know, they'll have some powers, but they're not going to perfect it because, you know, that first super soldier is going to be Clert, you know, who has all the Fantastic Four powers.
How do you spell that?
Once again, what?
How do you spell Clert?
It's KL apostrophe RT.
Love it.
It is. It's Skrull. You know, that's how they do things. We don't need vowels. We're not from Earth.
We're not from Earth. We don't use vowels. Screw you.
But I thought for sure they were going to maybe have someone like, you know, they have extremists and they try to do other powers and it doesn't sync. They have maybe one power, so they're powered up, but they're not like a super Skrull like a lot of the ones that we got in Marvel Comics. And then they would take, you know, Emperor Doge, who they mentioned in this, would take any of that, you know, data from their experiments and perfect it, and then we would get Clert. But now we've got a super Skrull that's all powerful. So who even cares? I doubt even we'll even get Clert in the MCU at this point, which is very disappointing.
Yeah, they done it wrong. They backed it in. They hit the yellow pole. They didn't do it right. They had a chance. And, you know, I think it would have been a better series had Talos survived. I don't think his death really had any, you know, sweeping meaning like they thought it would. I don't even think you know, it's supposed to affect Gaia, right? That's what I'm guessing. His death was affecting Gaia enough to switch sides or to see his side a little more clearly. They didn't even go that way with it. They just killed him off, you know? So it was kind of meaning, and the way he died, it was very like last second thought. Yeah, very anticlimactic. They could have done more with it, but it was they never even like next thing you know they have Talos's body in the back of a van. How did they get that? They all left the scene. They left him there. All of a sudden he just, you know, sends somebody back to go get it, like as if Gravik would have let that stand. If he would have left his body there, he would have been like, that'd be a trophy for him. Especially because he was super psycho at the time. You know?
No, you're right. Just
and is that machine, is it destroyed now to make the Super Skrulls?
No.
So
at
no one's
not
there.
That they've shown, yeah.
They got a Super Skrull machine sitting in the middle of Russia, and there's nobody there. So I would think that Gaia would want to go back and destroy it so that they couldn't do that to others. But then they still got the plans, I guess. I don't know.
Well, how much is there anything left of the harvest? I mean, I assume you have to use up some of the harvest to pass it along to Skrulls, but they'll probably enough harvest for everybody. Come on down. Everyone's the Avengers. Can I hold Mjolnir now? Because, you know, I have Thor DNA. Sure, why not? Let's give everyone Mjolnir. Let's
get Darcy over here. I bet she could hold it and say it by now.
You know, and that was the thing too. At the end of that episode, when Gaia was freeing everybody, you know, I
Rian
thought
Johnson.
Rian Johnson, that's right. I thought for sure we would get a surprise. Someone's a Skrull. Happy Hogan, Sharon Carter, Darcy Lewis, any of them show something. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing that shocked, or I'm like, I didn't see that coming this whole series, which when I read the Secret Invasion comic, I was like, what?
What?
That can't be true. And this had none of it. And just a total misrepresentation calling it Secret Invasion.
When Ross, when he came out of it and Rhodey was right next to him, and he says, Rhodey, how long have you been here? Like he would know how long he was there. Would he know? I don't know,
not
man.
Necessarily.
I've just been in here.
Because we don't know how, if they were awake when they came in. You know, Ever Ross not knowing how long he's been there wasn't the worst bit of writing on there, because who knows when they got there or what. Yeah.
But I mean, that makes me think though, it would have been so cool if we could say like Rhodey was switched way back in Iron Man 2. That would have been awesome. But obviously not these writers. But the part that I think Rhodey was switched in Civil War after he fell.
Well, it makes
That's the
sense because he had a
where you
hospital
tell
gown on.
Yes, and he fell like he didn't know he couldn't walk. He fell right out of that machine.
It would have been nice to see a scene. He's getting rushed to the hospital after Vision shoots him out of the sky, and you see like a Skrull.
Yeah, do like a
driving the ambulance.
flashback to do that. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Instead, we'll probably in Armor Wars, Rhodey will give the last thing I remember is, at the German airport fighting against Steve and them, and so he does. Obviously, has no idea that Tony is passed on at this point and has saved everybody.
Do you think that they'll have him deal with that, or do you think it'll be more like a one sentence thing in the plot and say like, I can't believe Tony's gone, and then that they won't even address it after that? I hope they don't do something like that. They can have a whole arc with him dealing with his best friend being gone.
Yeah, and him not being there when it happened. That would be a good time. That would be a good, as long as they got the right writers, that would be an excellent plot thread to deal with because that has to be huge for him. I wasn't there when this happened. And they won't.
Just like Tony getting more and more neurotic as the movies went. He had that panic attacks in Iron Man. Was that Iron Man 3 or 2?
3.
I think it was 2. It was 3?
It was 3.
Yeah, and it became part of his personality. They could do that with Rhodey. They could do the same thing. He could just evolve through all of his stages of grief with Tony. That'd be a great background plot line for you to understand the character more.
And it would lead, if they do some of this before Armor Wars, which, we know Rhodey is going to be the lead, fantastic. Then they can even deal with it more in this instead of just, unfortunately, you think you're right. It'll be 2 sentences at the beginning of Armor Wars. And I lost my best friend when I was held captive by the Skrulls.
Yep.
So now I'm going to go kick everyone's butt who's using his armor. Let's go, everybody. Tony
Let's
who?
go.
I called him Tony Stank, but that wasn't me. Let's get him.
Yeah. They're just going to drop the ball. I would have, if you would have asked me about that, the same thing, if this had happened like in phase 3, they wouldn't have fumbled it. But I just don't have the confidence in them post phase 3, I guess.
In the first 3 phases, they had a lot more hits than misses. It almost seems now it's equal. They have as many misses as they have hits. Because there hasn't been anything that I've truly hated in phase 4 or phase 5 so far. Not that I can think off the top of my head. But most of them, a lot of them have just been, it was okay.
Yeah.
If it wasn't me being such a huge superhero nerd, if it wasn't a superhero shown as the same thing, I'd probably be a lot more critical of it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, I see people writing, stories, MCU is dead, can't be revived, which just isn't true. Is it sputtering right now? Yes. But they could save, you start getting some good writing in and, they bring in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and they, totally the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Everyone will forget that they were struggling at this point. And, it'll be much like Carrie's not in the stream, so I can say this. It'll be like Thor the Dark World. It's there, but people don't talk about it. They kind of forget about it.
And you know what? People still watch Thor the Dark World. So, people will still watch these shows. There's a couple of them I will never watch again. I don't care how relevant they are. They were just terrible. But they could even plant seeds now. No, I guess they don't really have the X-Men yet. But there's no seed planting they could do for them yet. When do they get them? 2025? When they just redo all the actors? Besides the Deadpool movie, of course.
And that's why they can use some old actors. Yeah, I think it's 2025, where they basically have the contracts for the Fox X-Men actors kind of runs out and they're able to cast their own.
Well, they can very first movie, start planting seeds on that Phoenix Saga. You know, they can do that right away. Doesn't matter. It could be a small after credit scene. Just plant the seed. You know what I mean? Play that right this time.
I mean, hopefully. I pray they don't try to super rush it again. I'm even fine without even handling it at the start. Push it down the line. There's so many great X-Men stories you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Days of Future Past. That's the only one I can think of right now. But there's so many different, great plot lines. You can bring in X-Force. You can have, the New Mutants coming in. You can do so many things that have happened to the X-Men over the years, between them in Genosha, Krakoa. We got, the Fall of the Mutants. We have House of M. There's so many different ways they could go and do some stories that haven't been done, and then get into the Dark Phoenix saga. Have Jean Grey, who has been a hero in the MCU for years, have this downfall, and it'll play that much better.
Yeah, and like we said, if we just slow play it in more than one movie, then it'll be great.
Oh yeah, she has to use the Phoenix powers for good, and then fall from grace. Have the power kind of take her down or corrupt her, or whatever it's going to be, and then it'll be meaningful. It'll make sense. People will still care about the character instead of rushing through it. Hey, you made me kill somebody. I'm gonna murder everybody. Or I lost my kids. I'm gonna just start murdering people in other dimensions.
Yeah. I was gonna go through every dimension I can find until I find one that I can just take, and then I'll just take those kids and murder my way to them. That's a wholesome story. Well, we really covered this thoroughly, I think. What would you
No,
go ahead and rate it officially on the Doug scale?
On the Doug scale for the entire series, I'm gonna give it a 5. If they would have
Stuck the landing?
did a better job with the finale and wrapping it all up, it would have been much better, because I do think, like I've said, some excellent actors on this, some tremendous scenes with the actors in it. But just overall, it was, once again, I hate to use this word, but it's fitting. It was way too dull, way too predictable.
You know what? I'm gonna have to agree with you. 5. It's an average show for me. I was expecting so much more, but yeah, let's give it a 5. Actually, Luke Cage probably had a better ending season 1 than this show did. Remember Luke Cage, the Diamondback in? Yeah.
See, Luke Cage, the season 1, the beginning was tremendous with Cottonmouth. As soon as Cottonmouth died, the rest of the season was like, what is going on? Is this a different show? What am I watching? And then season 2, it started out not great. And then when, I can't remember the character's name now, but when he came on, the second half of season 2 was great. They had one great season of Luke Cage. Unfortunately, it was spread out over two seasons. And you just can't do that. I mean, man, I wish Mashallah Ali would have played Cottonmouth that whole first season, because that would have been on par with the Daredevil seasons, to be honest.
Big missed opportunity there. I don't know why they made that decision halfway through a season. Cottonmouth? Come on.
Yeah, he was the main villain. He was incredible. And was it shocking that he died in the middle? Yes. But then they couldn't carry the rest of the season without him, so it made no sense to do it.
Yep.
That seems to be our mantra. It made no sense.
Doug's in caps. Doug is saying so. So, did you hear about? I read the other day that Daredevil, when they finally get it up and running again because of this writer's strike, and hey, let's take care of them writers, huh? They said it's going to be the darkest show ever on Disney, and it's going to be a TV 14. I think that needs to be. That'd be awesome.
Well, did you hear who they said is going to be the villain of the show?
It's not Kingpin.
Well, he's kind of going to be, but Muse, who was basically a serial killer who use killings to create like use the crime scene for art. And I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, that even TV-14, how the hell are they going to pull that off? Because Muse was one of the absolute darkest villains that I can recall in a Daredevil comic. Which I have a tough time believing it's going to be handled correctly on a TV-14 show. Now, I could be totally wrong. I'm hoping
Well, with their
they
track
do it
record.
right. But they're probably gonna water down the villain, and it's not going to play off the way it should. Like they didn't water down Kingpin at all in Daredevil and everything else, and that's why it worked. This
Yeah.
villain is so dark and gory and gruesome. I don't think the Disney execs will let him do it the way it should be. So that worries me a bit about Daredevil Born Again. But
Yeah.
let's hope they pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting this show to be the best show that I had ever seen, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. And it doesn't rival Moon Knight or She-Hulk for me in any way. This was definitely rewatchable, but not in a way that you would want to go back and say, oh, I missed that the first time. Oh, wasn't that so clever that they put that in there? Because they don't have any of them.
Yeah, it's not like The Sixth Sense where you can go back and be like, oh my God, every time he was talking to him, no one else was talking to him. How did I not catch that? It'll be like, oh yeah, they did this.
Great. Oh yeah, he went to that restaurant and there was no one else there. And then he had that thing he said when he left that even when he's out, he's in. Ooh, that was a moment. Nothing hidden there, though. Nothing to go back and look for.
And don't forget to hit us up at Twitter, leave a comment down below, and we will see you next time on Not Your Status Quo.